Hey everyone, it's me, Pastor Scott Boggs at a Potter's Church, and I just wanted to share something pretty private and personal, but very real and powerful in my life. As many of you might already know, when I was 17 years old, I got started experimenting with drugs, and by the time I was 19 years old, I was a full blown heroin addict. And what had happened is when I was 19 years old, I'd contracted hepatitis C, which was from sharing needles on the west side of Chicago. And there was no doubt on my part, there was no denial on my part that was obviously a consequence to my poor decisions, to my bad choices in life. I'd never deny that. I'd done something. I was a kid and I'd made a bad choice and I was suffering a consequence of a disease that I was told was incurable, that would chronically, through my blood, attack my liver and cause me, a bunch of issues and so forth, and over time could very well possibly, kill me, and which I'd seen that same disease kill others as well as people that I knew personally and many others that I'd heard of, especially around the circles of recovery. It was a hard thing to live with, being a young man. And I remember one time, as I was drying out, I was laying in a jail cell in Division 5 of Chicago's Cook County Correctional Center, and I was seeking peace and answers from God's Word. I was laying in my bunk, crying quietly. Nobody was in there. And I had the Word. And, at that time, I was saying a lot of things. I was crying out a lot of things like, why, Lord? Why? Because I'd asked Jesus into my heart when I was 7 years old. And don't remember a day ever, in my life that he hasn't been there with me, been a part of my life. Through the good, the bad, and the ugly. I was unchurched, I admit that. But I was with Christ. Christ was with me. And so I was sitting there and I opened up the Bible and I came to this comforting word in Psalms 103:3. It said, "He who forgives you your sin and heals all of its diseases," and heals you all of your diseases. And, I realized that contracting hepatitis C from sharing needles on the west side, was a consequence of my sin. And that the disease was my own fault. It was kind of like a insult to injury. It was like, okay, you're sick with an incurable disease. It's probably going to kill you. You got to live with this monster the rest of your life, and it's your fault. And I remember years later, actually, I'd called up a minister, and after I'd sobered up, I was repentant. I was fighting for my life, fighting for my sobriety, fighting to be right with God and man. And I remember this pastor, when I told him about these, his answer was, what many's would be. He said, well, Scott, this is a local minister. He said, well, there are consequences. There are consequences to our sin. And when he said that, I just remember Psalms 103 welling up in me like stubborn faith, like, no, I did sin. I did mess up. I made some mistakes. I made a wreck of my life. I made a lot of messes. But God can clean it up. God does clean it up. And he can heal me of this disease. He can heal me of this consequence. And so anyways, I went on in, my life, and I'd sobered up, and I met a beautiful woman. Was honest with her from day one. When it started to seemed like it was going to get more serious and intimate and stuff. Talk about being loved. With close doctor, just being under the care of a good primary care physician, and reading up and all this stuff, finding out that there's a very low percentage of monogamous relationships that could pass, this disease sexually. We ended up falling in love, and she married me, even the leper that I was, because that's how I felt. I felt like a leper. with this incurable disease. And through a lot of, just following the doctor's orders and vaccinations and all that stuff, we've had 3 children. Amazing kids, the most amazing kids in the world. And then they just recently came out with this drug called Harvoni. And they were saying that it was 99.9% success rate in curing people of the most difficult genotype of hepatitis C, which I had and had carried, for 20 years. And it was curing people. But the problem is it was $90,000, a $90,000 treatment. And my primary care physician, God bless her, she immediately, she recommended it for me. And, I got a wife and 3 kids, and in Illinois, we make under what they call the poverty line, which I think is funny because, I don't know, what is poverty to me isn't poverty to what I've seen with others. Like, I guess I'm poor, but I've seen much poorer, and I just feel blessed. I feel blessed even though I'm put in this caste system of poor. I feel extremely blessed and rich in spirit and in life. We get what we need, and I just feel very grateful for that. But because I'm under the poverty line, we've been recipients, very grateful recipients of the state-provided insurance here in the state of Illinois. And she put in for this treatment, which is a $90,000 treatment, literally $1,000 a pill, and a cure rate in 3 months. And Friday, I went to the doctor's office. Not this Friday, this was a while back, but I was in the doctor's office, and on Friday, I was denied. And the very nice nurse there, she was telling me, she was telling me the story about a guy that she had just fought for 11 months, that she kept just bugging the insurance company. It's like her job, to just bug the insurance companies to get his treatment funded. And after 11 months, she got him through, and he got the treatment. And as she was promising me, as she was telling me that she was going to do everything that she could to fight to get me cleared of this virus, I saw in my spirit, some would say their mind's eye, or I say in my heart, or I saw in my spirit, I kind of just spaced out. If you ever see me just looking up and staring into space, I'm probably visualizing something. I saw a fax machine printing out a paper, and this was on Friday, and I walked out of there, and on Monday I got a phone call saying that I'd been approved, the treatment, the 90-day treatment of Harvoni. And to make a longer story short, I just I've cleared the virus. I did the treatment, did the 3 months, and then tested out to make sure there was no remission, or I'm sorry, not remission, but return. And at this point, the medical industry deems me one cured of hepatitis C. And they actually say, Mr. Boggs, you cleared your virus. And I just wanted to share that because I really do believe that was from standing on that promise that I got in God's word 20 years ago in a jail cell. It said, He who forgive you your sin and heal you your diseases. And 20 years I stood on that promise. And today I'm walking in the fulfillment of that faith. Now faith is the substance of what we're hoping for. And I'd hoped for that for over 20 years. And so I just share this to say, God bless you, and don't let anybody ever tell you that you have an incurable disease. And as far as God using the system to provide that provision, I don't see that any different than God leading the Hebrews out of Egypt with the gold. I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful that my kids have excellent health coverage because of the state-provided insurance for us, who work hard, very hard, in ministry and in work, trying to do the best we can to bless others. I'm very blessed, and I thank God. I thank God for this provision. I thank God for the system that provided this provision, and I just hope this will give hope to anybody else who may be standing on something, believing for something that I believe would be within the heart and will of God, as healing, I believe is. So God bless you, and I hope this testimony, somebody hears it, and it increases your own faith, and just, I don't know. God bless you, man. That's my testimony of Jesus, one of them, and peace. Pastor Scott, check us out, thepotterschurch.com. Much love.